Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Cote, and I'm your host of today's episode. And today I have Wesley O'Brien, co-founder, co-owner, and chief logistics officer of Frozen Logistics. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices he's learned along the way, and challenges he has faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to run and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notified when we drop episodes like this. Welcome, Wesley. It's so great to meet you. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, Kay, thank you for reaching out and having me on the show.
Of course. Well, before we dive into all things business, I'd love to learn a little bit about you. So feel free to share a bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, so my name's Wesley O'Brien. I live in Central Texas. I've lived here most of my life. I have family all over Texas and in various other places. About me at this point, I have a wife and three kids and run a couple businesses, and there's really not much else that you can get to. So that's kind of what I am. I'm a father, a husband, and run some businesses.
Oh, well, I'm excited to dive in, especially and learn about, about the business that you're working on with, Frozen Logistics. And so let's take it back a bit. How did you get into business? Is it something you've always wanted to do, or is it something that found you later on?
No, it's an interesting question, and it kind of steers directly into frozen logistics. So I've never known any other way. I was raised by people who balance between self-employed and entrepreneurship at all times and different ventures and diversity of income through different entities, but never really was raised by people that had traditional jobs. So I kind of was shown this way. So I always thought this was the way. Uh, and that is actually what led me into the cold storage chain. Is one of my family's primary businesses is a wholesale meat processing company, and that company in 2002 purchased the building that it had leased space in since 1989. And by purchasing the building, they had all this additional space with freezers and coolers already in place, so they started offering cold storage. And I came out of high school in 2003. I had at that point had already had over a decade of meat cutting experience and didn't really want to keep doing that. So I really focused on this new business that we had started and kind of grew it to its capacity and its legacy facility. And that's how Frozen Logistics ever came to be. So kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but I've just sort of always thought this was the way.
Oh, that's really cool. And thanks for sharing that. Especially sometimes it's like it finds you in a unique way, like having
Sure.
additional frozen storage space. That's the first time I've ever heard that. So I'm very excited. So now tell me about let's deep dive into what Frozen Logistics does. What are some of the either products or services that you
Mhm.
currently offer?
Yeah, so frozen logistics is first and foremost a cold storage in a traditional sense. Now, not everybody understands what traditional cold storage is, but it traditionally serves a business to business market. So we do storage, receiving, inventory tracking, and then multiple outbound methods, pallet out or case out, or even different individual eaches out on a business to business sense. So and that's in the frozen and cooler world, right? You got your refrigerator, you got your freezer. But the twist to what frozen logistics does is we focus very heavily into perishable shipping, direct to consumer parcel carrier shipping. That's the serious core and real focus of our business. And then inside of that, we built a marketplace that's delivered cold, and that is our focus. That is going to be 100% of our future, and that future is coming very soon. And that's just another niche play down into perishable direct consumer fulfillment. It's kind of a technology and warehouse blend that we've built. It really changed the landscape of the way that the consumer can order perishable food online and the way that a brand can represent it and sell it. So that's kind of, we start kind of wide, and that's what cold storage was for me in 2003. And then, as we built that to capacity and started looking towards the future of what other opportunities can be, was fortunate enough to meet my now business partner who does come from the technology side, and we started focusing on what that meant. And that gets really interesting because what actually happened is COVID happened, and COVID
Oh,
sort of showed us exactly what our company was and what it needed to be, and we went to work on it.
Okay, I'm taking a few notes. And so if say for like layman's terms, you're like, would you say like an Amazon for cold perishable like
No, that's funny that you say that because our we score points internally on like our different sales and account management stuff if we get somebody to say that, but we're not allowed to say that. So yeah. So because what and the reason why is that because now I know that I have laid it out somewhat correctly if that is how you perceive it. So that's why we don't say that, but we want to
Okay.
hear that said to us.
Well, you're doing a great job because like
No,
right
thank
away
you.
that I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And so this is very cool. So you work traditionally like B2B. So does like a business come to you for storage needs and then those products go to the end consumer, or is that kind of the path that you go right currently?
Yeah, well, so if we really, and I'll try to keep it at a somewhat high level, maybe not 30,000 feet, but I'll try not to land us here because I'll get us way in the weeds. But if an ideal product is as simple as this, a retail packaged frozen good, okay, that can be an ideal product for us. Now, if we can go find a brand that has that, what we have combined is the point of sale and the logistics center.
Mm,
So there's always these high barriers to shipping a frozen item because you have an insulated cooler, you have dry ice, you have expedited shipping labels, and so you have this upfront expense.
mm,
But what we've allowed by combining the point of sale and the warehouse is the end consumer can mix across brands into that one box. And so you can disperse that expense out a little bit further and allow the consumer to spend that minimum once, but across different items. So essentially, we function almost like a frozen online farmers market. Right. We give a place for the brand to really showcase their goods and really speak to their customer. And we incentivize that in a number of ways. And then we allow their customer to have a kind of a combined place of virtual real estate to buy all of these goods. I don't know if that directly answers your question, but what we need is a brand that has a product fit and a desire for e-com. And then we have a solution that to date I don't believe has existed. And I think it's very disruptive, and brings down a lot of barriers for both brands and the end consumer as well.
Oh yeah, that answered my question perfectly because that totally makes sense. And I see those things, especially, I live in an apartment complex and I see the frozen goods, coming in their packages and, a lot of those pre-prepped meals for healthy living and those
Mhm.
kind of things. So I definitely see the need and the demand for this because especially people are so busy now that it's so convenient to just quickly do your grocery shopping online, especially perishables. So that wasn't, so easy to come by as like, say, ordering canned goods or non-perishable
Right.
items. So that's really,
Yeah.
really cool.
Sure. And I mean that's the market demand we were shown during
Mm,
COVID. And
yeah.
then we saw the barrier, but what was interesting to us is that the barrier was consistent across brands. So what I
Mm-hmm.
mean is if you could solve that problem one time, you could just solve it over and over and over again. And we also saw through COVID, people got really interested in having a better education on how they live their life. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, that means transparency to who we're buying from. And that's one of the main pillars of the marketplace is for a brand to be able to tell its story and let the consumer buy directly from them. So my product, our product is the box.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm.
box in which the massive product is stored down to the box in which it comes to your house. We are the box. We are not the product inside the box. We represent it. We give it a chance to exist, but we're not it. We want the consumer to be able to say, no, I'm buying the product. I just now have a way that's lowered the barrier of entry for me to buy it, and I can shop it in an intuitive manner in an a la carte bespoke way, just like I would in a brick and mortar. But
Mm.
around unique frozen goods. So I mean that brand transparency is something that's very important to us to be able to showcase that, and be able to have our brands tell their story and say, look, we partnered with Delivered Cold to allow you to buy this in ways that previously were not accessible. We do it all with nationwide free shipping, and the business model with the brands is all a revenue sharing model. So we don't charge the brands anything. We put our side of it up first and sort of work for equity in the sale.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited about this. Now, behind this brand, there's got to be an awesome team. So I'd love to learn about your team. How many team members do you have currently, and what's your company culture like?
Yeah. So interesting for me, I took the slow route. So I've touched every aspect of the operations of a cold storage, from pallet jack operations, forklift operations, load board scheduling, on and on. I've done all the operations soup to nuts, and now I oversee those operations. But I feel like I have a very I'm very defensive of our team because I've been there, right? I've been in the trenches. I understand that the sales can break down with the operations, and the operations can be kind of left holding the bag because the sales and revenue drivers are sending in work that nobody knows what's coming and discombobulated. So communication became very important to us, up, down, and sideways. So we have a very communicative culture where people are encouraged to, point out inefficiencies, problems. But what we really do, and the leadership of our company, what their job here is to keep everybody on subject and not let it turn into attacks. And
Mm,
so, but our culture is to be very communicative all the time, constantly. We're really big on working with and not working for. But it's very important to me. I tell everybody that I directly interact with, if I feel like you're working for me, I'm going to have to let you go.
mm,
We're still too much of a startup. There's too many things to do. There's too many ideas that could shape this thing for anybody to feel like they're being drug along. So our leadership is very much collaborative,
mhm,
very much giving people the desired endpoint versus trying to tell them every step of the way. We're more into, here's where we're trying to go. When you see ways to help us get there better, let us know. And one thing that's important that we do and we talk about a lot, and I don't even remember who taught me this, is we build everything like we were going to franchise it. Now, we're not going to franchise anything, but we feel like if we build everything like we're going to, then job succession is easy, job description is easy. But the people that are with us right now are building that franchise. So we need their input on those systems, on those processes. But again, our culture is, if you have to be managed with the stick and not incentivized with the carrot, and we can't get you out of that. We're going to try really hard to get you out of that, but if we can't, we're probably not a good fit for you right now. We're still
mhm.
building too fast and scaling too quickly.
You touched on a couple of, I would say, golden nuggets of this conversation for other business owners out there. First of all, that collaborative way, especially as a startup, you need all brains on deck. And I think that's such a great way to grow and understand your business. Because like at myself as a business owner, I like to surround myself with like go-getter, intelligent people who can maybe outsmart me in different aspects. If someone like gets the right answer or comes to me with a solution, I'm like, yes, I love this because it like gives them the opportunity to shine and to, it's like something I missed. I would have never thought of that.
No, I think that everything has seasons. And I think once you have achieved certain metrics and you've spent enough time in your business, then a more structured approach might become more important for you. But what we're working on right now from a building standpoint, so we aptitude test and try to really understand people's strengths and where to put them. But
Hmm.
above your interest, your aptitudes, your likes, there's some core things that we need out of you. And
Hmm.
people who are not risk adverse, who are willing to try to make a decision, who are okay with being wrong because they feel like they can justify the way they went about it. That's kind of what we hunt for
Hmm.
in our leadership team for sure. Because I just well, look, like I told you, I'm working from home today. My amazing kick butt team is they don't. I'm in their way. So it's no matter that I'm nowhere around them today, right? Like it's fine because they're so good at what they do, and they need us to be good resource marshalers, good planners, good providers,
Hmm.
good communicators, and then give them their ability to work. And if you don't have a team like that, at least for me, if I don't have a team like that, we're sunk. We have got to have them. They're
Yeah,
vital.
definitely. They're vibing. I love that. So kind of looking at, okay, so what year was the business established again?
Interestingly enough, don't hold me to an exact date, but January of 2020.
Okay, so it was literally like a month before COVID.
Yes, I mean we could have a 7 hour podcast about COVID war stories. It was a very interesting time for us because we leased back the legacy facility while we embarked on our greenfield build, and we wanted to build a facility because we knew we wanted to do direct consumer. We knew that's where we could disrupt. There's giant, REITs in cold storage that I have a really hard time competing against from like a storage and pallet handling perspective. So I knew
Mm-hmm.
we needed to, or we knew that we needed to find a way to disrupt that,
Mm-hmm.
and we knew that that was being able to cut out a lot of the costs in the middle of distribution by going straight to the consumer. But we didn't
Mm-hmm.
know exactly what that meant. We just knew we needed a building to support that. And
Mm-hmm.
then COVID happened. So for us and the way that we're doing things, COVID was the biggest business driver I'd ever seen. But at the
I bet.
same time, we were executing commercial construction, and I've never seen a worse time for construction.
Mm-hmm.
And that led to just I mean an unbelievable amount of challenges and opportunities and resilience building exercises along the way that we could have an entire podcast over, but it was a very interesting time to embark in a startup for sure.
Definitely. Well, it seems like now you're on the up, you're moving, you're growing, and now I'd love to like dive into maybe a challenge you're facing today to show that transparency to our listeners. So, what is something you're currently facing with your business, and how are you going about maybe addressing it or taking on those challenges?
um so scaling on the box throughput side is our biggest burden. And what I
Mm-hmm.
mean by that is we've now put everything in place. Our marketplace has been live for about a year and a half at this point, which gave us a nice, I won't call it a sandbox environment because we were real and we were going, but we've learned a lot in that 18-month period. So we've got a lot of things in place. Obviously, there's always improvements that can be made and efficiencies that can be gained, but a lot of the upfront structure is now in place, and now we need to scale the box sales to
Mm-hmm.
start getting the ROI because it's so burdenous up front for the amount of money that had to be put into it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're meeting that challenge head on, and the way
Mm-hmm.
that we're meeting it is, and what makes it very interesting is we're not necessarily trying to dump capital into it. We're trying to figure out how to make a strong long-term brand awareness marketing approach.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot of really interesting things. One of the things that is very, very interesting is we remain brand facing. Like I told you earlier, we're just the box, not the product in it. So we actually have an incentive structure that we pay our brands as affiliates to push traffic to sell their own product. But it's a great model for us because it lowers our blended customer acquisition cost, but it also pays, it's another revenue stream for our brands. So that's one way that we're trying to just generate more consumer awareness to increase traffic on the platform. We also have an internal marketing team that works on individual brand awareness and on our brand awareness, and it's working, right? So we're increasing box throughput. Matter of fact, I just looked at our last 30-day trailing stats yesterday, and we're 60% up from the 30 days previous to it on box sales. So we're starting to find our stride, but it's still there's a giant opportunity for us and for the brands here, but there still is a pretty good size scale you have to meet before the profitability sets in because of all the upfront costs. For instance, we manufacture our own dry ice on site. And
Okay.
it,
Okay.
without saying the exact price tag on what it takes to invest in that, it's substantial. It's
Mm.
really efficient when you're making enough, let's call it 20,000 pounds of dry ice a month. It's very efficient. But until you get there, the upfront cost means you don't see the ROI. So we have a very custom spec built building
Mhm.
that costs quite a bit to run. So that's the biggest challenge for us right now. And then inside of that becomes tons of micro challenges. For instance, how do you retain extremely high levels of customer support so that your customer experience stays very high as you scale? How does your operations keep up with any burst volume and throughput orders? Those sort of micro challenges come along with it, but the macro challenge is to increase throughput.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you. That really makes so much sense, especially if you're doing some of that on-site, the dry ice creation. I don't even know how that works. And so like those kind of things that those costs are upfront or quite a few uh upfront costs. But
Well,
yeah,
come
thank you.
to the warehouse and I'll show you exactly how it works. I'll
I
tour you through
I
there.
want to take a tour now. So maybe we
Come
could do
on.
like a second podcast or on tour on site.
Yeah, come on. I like to take people through the warehouse. I not to sound ungrateful because what we have is amazing and we're blessed to have it. But when you work with it every day, you work in it every day, it doesn't shine as bright after a while. But every time I bring somebody out, I'm reminded that our warehouse is really unique and it's really cool and it's got some neat things in it that really serve us well and it stands out to people when we show it to them and it's a nice refresher for us and it helps. We always talk about balancing being content
Mhm.
while having desire, right? Like we need to be okay and happy with the progress we've made that's gotten us to where we are while continuing to strive and want more. And so a lot of times showing somebody who's never seen it what you've done and where you've gotten, they're blown away. And to you, you're just like, yeah, I spend a little bit too much time seeing what we still need.
Yeah.
And sometimes not enough time admiring and acknowledging and reflecting on the progress and the growth that we've gotten to.
Oh my gosh, that is like I think that's one of those thoughts that so many business owners, myself included, that yeah, when you're kind of in the day to day or just looking at what needs to be accomplished, you forget like what's been built. And so
Hmm.
I definitely will love to come out and that'd be like a fun, maybe like getting the business school, like UT involved, like maybe do class field trips and excursions to come check your facility out, especially those students who are interested in business. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I interestingly enough, as a co-founder and co-owner of a startup, I also run our vendor-led sales and our business development side of things as well. So that sort of stuff, that sort of exposure, and just more people knowing about us and knowing what we do, I love it. And it doesn't matter the industry, it doesn't matter the business type. There's a mindset to entrepreneurial people that I always learn from. I mean, I always learn from them. It's so I love having people out because I'm busy showing them what we do, and they have a thought that is applicable from what they've done. And like, hey, if you put this twist on it, this could serve you. I'm like, thank you. That
Yeah.
I would have had to paid you hundreds of thousands of dollars for that nugget you just dropped. So please bring some people out. I love it. It's so much fun. And as well as it's hard, there's no social life in this. And
Yeah.
when you go to a dinner party with your friends, they don't do this sort of stuff. You
Mhm.
you don't feel better than them in any way, but it's sort of like combat veterans can only really discuss combat with combat veterans. It's like you really can't understand what it is, what it's like, what happens to you. But anybody, any entrepreneur in any industry can share stories with you because I think you share the mindset and the commonality. All that to say, please come out and see us. I would love to have you out. I would love to host anybody you would like to bring.
Oh, wonderful. And I completely agree with the whole like entrepreneurship mindset and yeah, across industries. Yes. Very, very cool. Well, this has been such a fun conversation. I could talk to you for probably another hour or two. But now we're getting into our fun part of the Q&A, which is called our rapid fire questions, where I ask you 4 questions and you answer very top of mind.
Ooh, this is going to be the hard part for me. Tell I don't stay top of mind too well.
All right, I'll keep you accountable. Okay, question number 1 is, what is a key to success for you?
In general or around the business?
It could be either, however you want to take it.
Okay, a key to success to me is contentment in the present and continual growth of the future.
I'm gonna write that down. That is amazing. Question number 2 is, what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Scale as fast as you can.
And number 3 is, what is it could be a book, a podcast, an article, is just something that you've taken in most recently.
Um, I'm currently reading The Creature from Jekyll Island for, I believe, the sixth time. I try to read it once a year. I believe this is 6 years in a row. Um, it is a book essentially about the formation and function of the Federal Reserve. Um,
Mm.
it's very apolitical, so it's not going to pull you one side or the other, but it is an interesting insight to our monetary system, and it has helped me understand and change my mindset around risk as far as money is concerned.
That sounds like a great book. And then the fourth question is, if you could wave a magic wand and overnight rapidly improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
Consumer facing awareness.
Mm. Thank you so much for answering those rapid fires. You did great. That was like
Maybe I just need a great direction. Like, I
teamwork.
need like a word cap. You have 7 words. That's all you have.
Oh, no, this has been such a great conversation. Before we get to the final question for today's episode, how can people connect with you and your business online?
You can email me in a couple of different places. The best one is to email me at wesley@frozenlogistics.com. It's the best one because my kind of right hand Arena sits in that email, and so she'll actually get back to you because she covers up what I suck at. So that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can check us out on deliveredcold.com. You can also, so we have an Amazon store that's Delivered Cold, brand registered store. We have a TikTok that's a brand registered store for Delivered Cold. So you can check out our product there. Uh, Anybody that would like to make a purchase from deliveredcold.com at checkout, you can use Invest 20 for 20% off if you'd like to kind of try us out, see how we work. But I'd love to hear from anybody in my inbox. I love to talk.
I'm going to write that down and put that in the show notes. Invest 20.
Yeah, that's a 20% off code. And that helps me understand, I spit that code out to people all the time so that I can understand how business development awareness kind of thing is working. So I like to see that code, and there's really great product on there. There's some local businesses. Frozen One is a new protein ice cream brand that's being manufactured in Austin. Lick Honest is another
Mm.
Austin-based ice cream that sells their product on there. Bola Pizzas is an Austin-based entrepreneur who you should reach out to her. She's got a very interesting story and hands down the best frozen pizza I've ever had. It's amazing. And other local, good brands that you'll recognize. Snow's Barbecue out of Lexington. You can buy their product there. So yeah, I mean, I encourage people to check it out, but please do use that code. It lets me know that people are hearing about us.
Wonderful. Well, this has been such a great conversation. For our final question today is, what is most inspiring to you today?
Seeing the new disruptive way in which brands can be built and use current communication platforms to cut out so much of what was traditional channels. I find it very refreshing that we have a easier and better way to speak directly to our audience now, and we can cut a lot of the gray area out, provide a lot of transparency, and give people a way to go straight to the brand. Actually, like who's the guy? Oliver Anthony. Have you heard that song that he wrote? Rich Men
Mm.
from Richmond.
No, okay.
Oh, anyway, so I don't know a lot about the guy, but I was kind of listening to some stuff about him, and he wrote this song and he played this song, and it got like, whatever, millions of hundreds of millions of views, and now he's like completely monetized himself without a record label.
Oh, that's incredible for like especially.
I That's inspiring to me. I like that people can, there's a lot of things I dislike about technology these days, but the ability to get around what used to be the powers to be, I really like. I find that very inspiring.
Well, this whole conversation has been inspiring, and I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Wesley, for just being on the show, sharing about your business, and just having a great conversation today.
Thank you, Kay. I really enjoyed it.